Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. Today we're going to take a look at the Batman from the Dark Knight trilogy. It was a bit challenging, but in a sense I pretty much went with the most simple stuff I could think of. On a side note, when Jim Lee redesigned the characters for the New 52, he took a lot of inspiration from the Batman costume from Batman Begin. Basically, Batman Begin was supposed they faked it in the sense that they added all those lines to the costume, trying to pretend that it was a whole bunch of Kevlar plates weaved together. And that's why the new 52 costume have all those over-designed, useless lines added to them. Basically, Jim Lee was trying to reproduce what they had done in Batman Begin. So I went in a roundabout. I went full circle, and I used the Stalwart Defender chest and actually the Stalwart Defender style to recreate the Batman Begin look. Seeing how Jim Lee, when he designed those, actually took inspiration from Batman Begin. So now we're taking what Jim Lee did as an inspiration, and we're using it to recreate our friend from Batman Begin. So let's get started. So basically, I went with the Dark Knight helmet. I didn't use the cowl. Sometimes it does create a bit of clipping around the neck when when the chest piece actually has a neck piece. So as a rule of thumb, usually I'll try not to use I'll just use the helmet if there's already a neck piece for with the style. But if not, then I'll use the cowl. But it's not a set in stone a rule. Sometimes I'll use the cowl even if there's a neck piece. It depends. Obviously, I went with Stalwart Defender chest and the Stalwart Defender pants. And for the gloves, I used the Batman Beyond gloves, and the same with the belt. I used the Batman Beyond belt. Obviously, the cape is the Batwoman cape. And for the boots, I also went with the Batman Beyond boots. And for the emblem, obviously, I went with the Batman Rebirth emblem. So overall, it gives a kind of look sort of similar to the look that Batman had in Batman Begin. But it's not exactly it, but right now with the styles I have, this is about as close as I was able to get. And then when they did the Dark Knight films, they made a few cosmetic changes. I knew I would get it at some point. So for Batman, for the Dark Knight, they made a few cosmetic changes to the costume. They added like some sort of weird shoulder pads, and also they changed the belt a bit to be those kind of weird tubes. So I tried to find something that was close enough to the look of those items. And in this case, I went with the Batman Beyond pants. I thought it kind of worked a little bit better to try to create the feel of a whole bunch of plates put together as opposed to the Stalwart Defender pants. So for this version, it's pretty much the only variations I went with. I changed the belt, I changed the pants, I added some shoulders, and there we go. We have more or less the Batman from the Dark Knight. So we still have the Stalwart Defender chest, we still have the Batman Beyond gloves and boots, we still have the Rebirth emblem, and we still have the Batwoman cape. It was a bit tricky because technically, even though there's in the three Batman film, technically they gave a new costume to Batman in each film. The changes in the costumes were very superficial. It was not very big changes. And it's something they often do in movies, not just in Batman. You'll notice, even if in the first Tim Burton Batman film, for Batman Returns, they gave a new costume to Batman. And even though and you would ask most people don't even know that Batman has a new costume in Batman Begins because the costume is so Batman Returns, sorry, because the costume is so similar to the one in the first film. Basically, they added some plates to the chest and things like that. But overall, it's pretty much the same costume with just a very few variations. They did the very same thing with Spider-Man. If you look between in the first Spider-Man by Sam Raimi and in the second Spider-Man film, they gave a whole new costume to Spider-Man in the second film. And I guarantee you 99.9% of people have no idea that Spider-Man has a new costume in Spider-Man 2 because it's basically the same costume. All they did was change, well, I was again very superficial changes. They made the blue a little lighter. Basically they made slight variations in the colors of the costume. And they changed like the spider in the back or a few things like that There were very subtle changes that most people wouldn't even know. And the same sadly was true with Batman from the Dark Knight trilogy. So from film to film, it was essentially the same costume, but with very slight cosmetic changes. So let's give a try to a third variation that I made. So here, basically, it's pretty much the same thing, but in this case, I went with the Daring Vigilante chest, and for the pants, I think it's the robotic pants. It's been a while since I created those looks. I've been struggling a bit with this video because it's pretty hard to find distincting. Yeah, the shield. I went with the shielded robots, but I did find it hard to try to recreate what was pretty much the same costume in three films with very slight changes. And sadly, we didn't have anything really in this universe online that was really looking exactly like what was used in those films. So I used up looks that are almost. Oh, the belt. Oh yeah, I didn't mention what the belt was. The belt basically is the interlocking belt, and for the shoulders, before I forget, the shoulders are the Scion of Iron shoulders. So basically, I bulked up the shoulders. I used the Daring Vigilante chest to basically change the pattern of the plates on the costume. The same with the robot pants. I went with those pants in order to change the shape of the plates. But for the rest, it's still the Batman Beyond boots. It's still the Batwoman cape. It's still the Batman Beyond gloves. And that's pretty much it for our Batman Begin or Batman Dark Knight trilogy character. As time goes by, as more styles gets added into the game, maybe at some point we will be able to make a more accurate version of the Batman Begin character, or heck, maybe at some point in the future they will give us a Batman Begin set of gear in some time capsules. Who knows what we'll get in the long run. So the more they add the styles to the game, and the easier it will be to try to recreate some of the looks we want. So I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. There is our friend Dan Dragon in the comment section on YouTube who suggests the following for Batman from the Dark Knight trilogy. Basically, the Dark Knight helm, the Stalwart Defender chest, the Batwoman cape, the Dark Defenders for the hands. I don't have the Dark Defenders on this character. Actually, I don't think I have it on any characters. But it's basically the same as the Dark Spectre hands. It's just that you can change the colors if I'm not mistaken. The Batman Beyond belt, the Batman Beyond pants, the Batman Beyond boots, and the Batwoman cape. So these are what our friend Dan Dragon suggests. He also suggests an alternative for the Stalwart Defender chest. He suggests the Snake chest, which kind of works with these plates locked into together. It kind of suggests the look a bit. So that's pretty much it for our friend Batman from the Dark Knight trilogy. So sadly, it was a bit challenging to try to reproduce that look. Oh, and obviously, Dan Dragon suggests the Batman Rebirth emblem, of course. So sadly, it was a bit difficult to try to recreate the Batman from those films. But who knows? In the future, maybe we'll get more Batman Begin styles, and maybe we'll be able to do a better job recreating the Batman from the Dark Knight trilogy. So that's pretty much it for now, guys. So as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.